Hello, Jacksonites. And as promised at the ending of my top 20 favorite dinosaurs video, or at least as alluded to, I will be, along with good old Jackie Boy from BigJackFilms,
Spend no expense.
will be tackling the long-awaited, much-anticipated on its 10-year anniversary, at least to the year,
My God.
return to the Jurassic Park franchise with 2015's Jurassic World. Oh, goody gumdrops. Yes, indeed. This is going to be a fun one. So, jumping right into our personal histories. Jack, you can go first, actually, because you're my guest.
Well, it's interesting for me. I have been a Jurassic Park fan, as you all know, since the original. I didn't see it in theaters when it first came out. I was still like a year old, but I remember it fondly on VHS. Saw Lost World, saw Part 3. For a longest time, hated Part 3. It was such a pisser. And I've been on the rides. I have covered all the movies and yada yada. I've done my time. I have an official costume from the movie, this lab coat. But to the point, basically, Jurassic World is an interesting one. As many were waiting since Part 3, almost a decade and a half. The anticipation and waiting for Jurassic Park 4 was a nightmare. It was my generation's version of waiting for Batman 89. 10 years of development hell. I always quote James Rolfe when he reviewed Turtles 3, and I've actually had this happen. Waiting for Jurassic Park 4, I had for a decade and a half dreams of going to see the movie or a trailer or something, and then waking up and being all pissed off it wasn't real. The wait was fucking killing me. There were rumors for years. There was talks about who would direct it, who would come back. Keira Knightley was once attached to play an older Lex Murphy. There was rumors about what the plot would be. It would be very Planet of the Apes with like the extinction of not just dinosaurs, but humans. Hybrid dinosaurs crossed with humans. It was all over the place. And it went on and off. And at one point, the project was eventually shelved with the unfortunate passing of not just Michael Crichton, the writer of the original books, but Stan Winston the same year. And it was the producers, Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy, along with Spielberg, who were like, maybe we won't do it because, it would just be disrespectful to those two. So at one point, the project died. It was dead. And then we all lost faith. Fan trailers came and went. But it wasn't until, surprisingly enough, San Diego Comic-Con 2011 or 12, it was a panel with Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson promoting The Adventures of Tintin, which, good movie, that basically not only was Jackson, obviously promoting The Hobbit because he was making those at the time, but all of a sudden, an attendee at Comic-Con at the panel asked Spielberg, hey, Steven, what's the latest on Jurassic Park 4? Can you give us anything? Is it dead? And Spielberg flat out said, we have a story. I can happily see that. We are actually going through with development. And Hall H roared with applause. Also, hi, Honey Bear. Roared with applause. Now, I have learned from this experience when it comes to any new entry in a franchise, I will not believe it is happening until the cameras start rolling. That was the lesson learned about this 10 years of waiting. So when it comes to anything, Star Wars, whatever, I will not believe a thing until the cameras roll. So when I finally saw the cameras roll on Jurassic Park 4, I was like, okay, we're back. I can't wait. The trailer dropped. I was all in. The promo and anticipation, I was excited. I went to see it with Brad on opening weekend. I had a blast. He had a blast. I think I actually showed him the first 3 movies. In fact, I was actually really happy with the 3D re-release of Jurassic Park in 2013. I managed to see it like 3 times in the cinema to just make up for the fact that I've now seen all of them in cinemas. It was a good time, and I think that was also, I will admit, the re-release I think brought back the success. It brought back the sort of dino craze and everything. So that was sort of I guess, a testing ground to say, would people want to see another one? And I think with it being a huge successful re-release, it actually beat the special editions of Star Wars in terms of box office for re-releases. There was money to be made, and you know what? 10 years later, we've gotten 3 more sequels, a new one on the way. I'm more excited for this than the last one. The success of Jurassic World has been a gift for the franchise, but I'll also admit has been a curse. There's my sense on it.
Okay, so kind of like Jackie Boy, I have a little bit to say. First off, I will fully admit that yes, this review has been spurred on by the release of Jurassic World Rebirth's trailer. And I'm not going to say much about it, but I just will say I'm hyped. So going into Jurassic World, I too, like every other Jurassic Park fan, was miserable during that 14 fucking year long wait. It was absolute hell. I would, as soon as I got all 3 Jurassic Park movies on DVD and I marathoned all 3, like with how Jurassic Park 3 ends, it always would leave a very bittersweet taste in my mouth. Like, you know, there really should have been a 4th one by now. Why is there not a 4th one? And I don't know very much about the production, about like what was going on behind the scenes. I do know of some of the ideas about what the 4th movie would have been about. The main one that I remember hearing about was the human dinosaur hybrid idea. And that always sounded really cool to me. And I always wondered, like, why the hell was this movie just not as big of a hit as Universal was hoping, Jurassic Park 3? But I was always like really frustrated and really just bitter and angry towards Universal for not giving us a Jurassic Park 4 for so long. And then after a certain point in time, I just kind of gave up and just let it be. Like, you know, you can only like be angry at something and frustrated at something for so long before you get bored. So I just left it alone. But it wasn't until completely out of nowhere, I think, I don't remember when the trailer for this movie dropped. I think it was
November 2014.
Okay, so actually I think it was early 2015 when I actually saw the full-blown trailer for Jurassic World. And this is going to sound strange. While I was very impressed and shocked as fuck to see this trailer, be like, oh, wow, another Jurassic Park movie is on the way. I was still very skeptical. I was like, wow, they finally have one after 14 years. I don't think I want to go see it.
Really?
Yeah, I did not see this in theaters, unfortunately. And I waited until like January of 2016 to get this on DVD. This is the same DVD that I got from Target almost 10 years ago.
No disc rot there.
And even after I bought it, I still waited like 2 or 3 months to actually crack it open and watch it. I'm ashamed that I got rid of this, but I actually bought the steelbook that was in the shape of the Jurassic World logo.
Ooh.
And I threw it away because I just wanted to keep the disc. I kind of wish I held on to that, but after like everybody left and right telling me that Jurassic World was awesome, I finally just said, just do it! Fuck! So I sat down and I popped in Jurassic World. And man, let me tell you what, I have never kicked myself in the ass harder not seeing any other movie in theaters other than Jurassic World. Holy fucking shit. I was absolutely blown the fuck away seeing Jurassic World. I was like, oh my God, the wait was worth it. This movie is fucking awesome. And surprisingly, I've only seen Jurassic World about 6 times. And I have not seen this movie since 2018. And I literally just got done rewatching it for the first time since just under an hour ago. And I gotta say, 10 years after its release, Jurassic World still holds the fuck up and is one hell of a kick-ass time. This is a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. And in my opinion, it was this movie, I've talked about this before, but this was the movie that kicked off the Hollywood Renaissance era starting in 2015 and ending in 2019. Nope. 2015 in particular was a fantastic year for films because alongside Jurassic World, we had Terminator Genesis, Tremors 5, and of course, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And from there on until 2019, every single year would have some absolutely monumental, phenomenal, banging ass movies that we still enjoy and love to this very day. 2015 through 2019 is all because of this movie. So thank you for that.
I will say, in some degree, you say it's the Renaissance. I would call it me watching it as well today. I hadn't seen the movie probably since 2017. I haven't fully watched the film. I took a break from it because I had to focus on other things plus the other movies. I will admit it still holds up. It is a very fast-paced, entertaining, flashy action-adventure movie. I actually put it on par with the third one in terms of pace and action and how it all is set up. But I will admit, like, watching it again 10 years later, the gift part is that we got a new movie, we got a new franchise with it, we got a new interest in dinosaurs for a new generation, amazing special effects and actors and so on. But it's also a curse because I will admit, you call it the Renaissance era, I call it the birth of the nostalgia boom. Meaning, like, this was the birth of member berries. This was the birth of every single franchise being a remember this, remember that, remember this, remember that. And what's funny is watching it in Jurassic World, I'll admit some of that nostalgia Easter eggs, some are great and others are, it's a little shoehorned in. It's a little too much. But we really have to thank this movie for, honestly, yes, kicking off the rebirth of, pun intended, many franchises. And some have been great, some not so much. There is a gift and a curse with this movie. Much like the film, it paved the way for great things. But it also feels like we opened Pandora's box in a way and we can't put it back. So I guess that's sort of my take on it, watching it again. It's still a good movie, a well-competently made film, but I will admit, some issues have come up for me, and I'll discuss those later on.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with the member berries getting repetitive and forced in recent years. However, like all throughout 2015 through 2019, this revitalization of the film industry and going back to the past and revitalizing all these old franchises. I've talked about this before too. I've never really had an issue with that concept, partially because, granted, like before this came out, like the preceding 10 years or so, we did get good movies and actually some great films. But I think this was, so you are right, in the 2013 3D re-release of Jurassic Park certainly did. It definitely was like a testing ground to see, are people going to respond well to this if we re-release it in theaters? And it was actually that re-release that did tip over the $1 billion mark for the original Jurassic Park. And because that was so successful, it obviously showed the studio, okay, yeah, we definitely can just go ahead and do this. But I've never really had an issue with the revitalization of so many franchises, because it made us realize, that stuff that we grew up with, we actually do kind of miss it. And if it was to be introduced in a modern era, Jurassic Park with modern day special effects could be awesome. Star Wars with modern day special effects could be awesome. Evil Dead, Terminator, Godzilla, King Kong, all that could be showcased today with modern special effects. And yeah, it could work. And for the most part, despite some blunders here and there, the cancellation of Ash vs. Evil Dead and Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, it has been a pretty kick-ass and successful run, in my opinion.
In a way, it's like, I guess with the re-release, to quote Ghostbusters, as a test, successful test. For me, it's interesting because it's yes, we have gotten some greats, and like, yeah, with the effects wise, it's like oh well, we can do this and this. I will think to some degree that some franchises escaped and stayed where they were in the past, namely Jaws and Back to the Future. Thank God we have not gotten anything new from that.
Well, I completely disagree with that notion, but there was another one that I should have mentioned. Halloween.
Halloween. I mean, some were bad. Like, I don't know what your take is on the RoboCop remake.
That was 2014.
Yeah, well, that was sort of the. I mean, actually, what I like is Jurassic World. I mean, outside of the nostalgia stuff, it gave birth to sort of the soft reboot. Like, yes, it made Hollywood say, you know what? Let's stop. Because remember, before Jurassic World, most franchises were getting rebooted constantly. Remade. Batman Begins, The Amazing Spider-Man, RoboCop, Total Recall, like all these, because it's weird because the 2000s, before 2010, before 2015, the 2000s were all about nostalgia for the 80s. So it was things like Transformers, G.I. Joe. A lot of kids who grew up in the 80s, they were getting their nostalgia take. But for the 2010s, it was all about the 90s renaissance. It was all about going back to the 90s, which I prefer because I grew up in the 90s. But in this case, it was like a matter of just having certain franchises come back. And again, thankfully, some have been good, some have been bad, and some, thank God, did not get it. I do not want Back to the Future 4.
I do.
The trilogy. Actually, what's funny is the fact that we haven't gotten one. I'm going to say this: if this trend dies and Back to the Future goes unscathed, then I will actually credit it as one of the greatest trilogies of all time, if not the greatest. The fact it didn't get a follow-up, it stayed a trilogy. So,
well, two things. One, it technically is not a trilogy because of the existence of Back to the Future, the animated series. But also, two, that is a very toxic, closed-minded, shitty mindset. I think a Back to the Future 4 would be awesome. And I think a Jaws 5 would also be awesome. Moving on. So, almost 20 minutes into the review, let us jump into the plot of Jurassic World. We're going to jump back and forth between the plot, but I'll let you know when we're doing that. Okay.
Yeah,
so
let me go grab that. I don't have the plot synopsis.
Jurassic World is a 2015 American science fiction action film directed by Colin Trevorrow. This being the movie that I was introduced to Colin, of course. I did not know of anything else that he did. Oh, his debut was Safety Not Guaranteed in 2012. So this was the movie that really brought him to the public eye. Colin also co-wrote the screenplay with Rick Jaffa, Amanda Silver, and Derek Connolly. It is the first installment in the Jurassic World series and is the fourth installment overall in the Jurassic Park film series following Jurassic Park 3 back in 2001. The film has an all-star cast featuring Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Vincent D'Onofrio, amongst others. Set 22 years after the events of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World takes place on the same fictional island of Isla Nublar, located off the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. A successful theme park of cloned dinosaurs, dubbed Jurassic World, has operated on the island for years, bringing John Hammond's dream to fruition. The park plunges into chaos when a transgenic dinosaur escapes from its enclosure and goes on a rampage, while a conspiracy orchestrated by the park's staff creates more dangers. Now, again, I don't really know of a lot of the whole bullshit development hell shit that surrounded Jurassic Park 4, but I do know that Universal intended to begin production of a fourth Jurassic Park movie in 2004 for a mid-2005 release, but the project lingered in development hell while the script underwent several revisions. Many of these ideas, as we mentioned, like one of them including the half-human, half-dinosaur hybrid monsters, were considered, but all of these were eventually dropped, unfortunately. Once Colin Trevorrow was hired as a director in 2013, he followed the same idea of a functional dinosaur park while developing a new script with Connolly. Filming lasted from April to August 2014 in Louisiana and Hawaii. Like the previous films, the dinosaurs were created by Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic using CGI and by Legacy Effects using life-size animatronics. Not very much, as we'll talk about later on.
Well, what's interesting is that they shot some of it at the abandoned Six Flags in New Orleans after Katrina, and then Legacy Effects is actually the protege, like the predecessor, or not the predecessors, like the follow-ups to Stan Winston's studio. So it's still Stan Winston's team. They've just transitioned from Stan Winston to Legacy.
With a budget of $150 to $250 million, Jurassic World was released theatrically in the U.S. June 12th, 2015, and it was received generally positively by critics, some considering it to be the best Jurassic Park sequel. And with that budget on release, it set several box office records, including the largest opening weekend both domestically and worldwide, and it went on to gross $1.671 billion worldwide, becoming the second highest grossing film of 2015, guessing behind The Force Awakens, the third highest grossing film of all time at the time of its release, and the highest grossing in the Jurassic Park series and highest grossing film released by Universal. And also, fun fact, it is one of the top 10 most successful films ever released in American history. And as of today, the other 9 now technically are all Disney movies.
Yes, but John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
Disney, take notice. So, Jurassic World certainly does have its own legacy in and of itself, becoming one of the most successful films of all time, and as I mentioned, kickstarting truly the big Hollywood renaissance for the next 5 years. Alrighty, so again, we're going to jump back and forth, but I'll start.
Okay.
In the years after the Jurassic Park dinosaur on Isla Nublar, Masrani Global Corporation acquired InGen's assets and eventually opened a new dinosaur theme park on the island known as Jurassic World. Brothers Zach and Gray Mitchell visit the park, where their aunt, Claire Deering, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, works as the operations manager. She assigns her assistant Zara to guide them, but they evade her and explore on their own.
Navy veteran and ethologist Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt, has been training the Velociraptor squad composed of Blue, Charlie, Delta, and Echo, or as we call them, Star-Lord and the Raptor Squad, and researching their intelligence. Based on their Raptor's ability to follow commands, the head of InGen Security, Vic Hoskins, played by Private Pyle, believes that the animals can be weaponized, and an idea Owen and his assistant Barry pretty much oppose, saying, Nah, dinosaurs in the Middle East. Nah, this is stupid.
The word is vehemently. Claire and Jurassic World owner Simon Masrani, played by Irfan Khan. I think he's dead now.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yep, he's dead. Inspect the park's newest upcoming attraction, the Indominus Rex, a hybridized transgenic dinosaur created by geneticist Dr. Henry Wu, again played by B.D. Wong from the original Jurassic Park. Masrani tasks Owen with evaluating the dinosaur's enclosure for security purposes, and Owen warns Claire that the Indominus lacks social skills, making it dangerous and unpredictable. When the Indominus seemingly escapes, Owen and the two others investigate. The dinosaur, capable of camouflaging itself cuttlefish style and masking its heat signature tree frog style, suddenly appears and devours the other two men, with Owen managing to survive. The Indominus escapes into the island's interior, and Owen urges Masrani to destroy it, but Masrani, trying to protect his company's investment, $26 million sunk into one dinosaur, sends a unit to subdue it using non-lethal weaponry, but this goes completely tits up. After the unit is killed, Claire orders the northern sector's evacuation, while Masrani confronts Wu about the Indominus design.
While exploring the park in a tour vehicle, the gyrospheres, the big hamster balls, Zach and Gray enter the restricted area, something they have not explored. The Indominus arrives and destroys the vehicle, but the boys narrowly escape while the Indominus fights a herd of ankylosaurs. Awesome. They find the ruins of the original Jurassic Park Visitor Center, which surprisingly looks smaller, repair the old Jeep Wrangler, and drive back to the park resorts.
As Claire and Owen search for the boys, they barely escape the Indominus as well. Masrani and two soldiers hunt it down by helicopter, but it breaks into the park's aviary. The pteranodons and dimorphodons, startled by the Indominus, flee the aviary and fly into Masrani's helicopter, causing it to crash and kill its helicopters. Oh dear, I don't know how to ride. The escape pterosaurs.
Customer service!
Oh, I should probably stick to customer service.
No, what are you doing? Don't redeem it!
I am under the water. Please help me.
Hello, I am burning alive. Please help me.
The escaped pterosaurs converge onto the resort and attack everyone, including Zara, who is then devoured by a massive mosasaur. Zach and Gray find Owen and Claire at the resort as armed personnel shoot down the pterosaurs with tranq darts.
Hoskins assumes command and orders the raptors to be used to track the Indominus, whereupon Owen reluctantly complies and spearheads the assault with the raptors. But beforehand assaults Hoskins with an Indiana Jones punch. Love that punch. Upon finding it, the dinosaurs begin communicating amongst themselves. Kill them. Owen realizes that the Indominus has Velociraptor DNA, twist, and it usurps Owen's commands of the Raptors, becoming the new Pack Alpha. Soldiers fire on the Indominus, but it escapes again. The Raptors slaughter most of the soldiers while Claire is killed in the chaos. While Charlie is killed in the chaos, alien style, baby. Huskin evacuates Wu and the dinosaur embryos from the island to protect his research, and more sequels. Owen and Claire and the boys find Hoskins at the lab securing more embryos, but Delta breaks in and kills him. Well, we also see on the monitor the Stegoceratops. Owen, you next.
Owen restores his bond with the 3 surviving raptors before the Indominus reappears. The raptors attack the hybrid, but Delta and Echo are killed while Blue is knocked unconscious, one of them being thrown and turned into fried lizard. Makes me hungry. Claire releases Rexy, the Tyrannosaurus from the original Jurassic Park, from her paddock and lures her to the Indominus using flares. The 2 dinosaurs attack each other, and the Indominus eventually overpowers the T-Rex, but Blue recovers and joins the battle. The duo fight the Indominus until it gets cornered at the lagoon's edge, where it is dragged underwater by the Mosasaurus.
Deep Blue Sea style, baby. The survivors are evacuated. The island is abandoned once again. Zach and Gray reunite with their parents, while Owen and Claire decide to stay together. And we all live happily ever after.
And ending on one of my all-time favorite closing moments in any movie, especially in the last 10 years, Rexy climbing up to the helicopter pad and overlooks her newfound kingdom and roars to the skies. Cut to black.
It's my house. My house. It's Lion King. It's the cowboy going into the sunset. Classic. French kiss.
It's Godzilla, King of the Monsters, declaring himself the King of the Monsters.
Well, she's a
Cut
queen,
to black.
technically.
So, Jack, what do you think of this premise? I'll be right back.
All right. These messages. Well, my thoughts, personally, it is. I'll say this: it's a simplified film, very simple, very, very much a hey guys, we're back with a new Jurassic Park adventure. Enjoy the ride, and that's what this feels like. This feels like the equivalent of the Jurassic Park ride at Universal, which I have ride many a times. It feels like very much, again, returning to form, going back to basics, getting people reintroduced to the story and this world, Jurassic World. And I think to some degree, it's a good thing and a bad thing. On the one hand, again, it does reintroduce the audience and a new generation to the franchise. But do I feel like the fans might have needed a bit more like explaining and expanding on the lore because this is part 4. This is not really it's a soft reboot, but it's still part 4. So in a way, do I think the fans deserve a little better when it comes to, explaining some things, a little bit of the world building? Yeah, I do think there is some things in it that I'm like, I could have liked to see a little more. And I think that's what I like about this movie. It's good, it's simple, but it makes you it asks you for a little more. It says, I want to see more of this. And there's some stuff later in the cons I have that I think that's where I said we needed more.
Well, before we begin, word from our sponsor. Pro number 1 for me is the plot/premise itself. I love it. I absolutely dig the living fuck out of it. he's right. The plot is very simple. It's almost as simple as Jurassic Park 3. It's a simple, big, bombastic, action-packed action-adventure movie. But you know what? That's what I like. That's what I want. Nothing more, nothing less. I have very few issues with how this movie is played out, and mainly they're just all nitpicks. But I just dig the fuck out of this movie. I don't know why it's taken me so long to give this movie another watch, but I definitely do now see myself throwing this on a much more regular basis. This is a kick-ass, entertaining, very well made, very action-packed movie.
Very flashy.
That's one thing I like about it. And also, as a now, yeah, it is a soft reboot, or no, it's not a requel because it doesn't ignore the events of Jurassic Park 2 and 3, but it, like The Force Awakens, it does do a really good job of introducing audiences to the new era, or even like Tremors 5. I'd actually say it's more like Tremors 5, not just because that's also a Universal movie, but it introduces audiences to a new era of Jurassic Park, but it also introduces Jurassic Park fans to the new era of the franchise to come. And now, from afterwards, it may have been a little shaky, but it still had a very, very strong start and a very strong foundation to build off of. And yeah, as a reintroduction to the franchise, there's lots of callbacks to the first, well, technically the first movie, but it still feels very Jurassic Park fan friendly. It feels like a good, solid continuation of the Jurassic Park series to go in. And while some people may have criticized this film, kind of like what they did with Force Awakens, and how it's very similar to Jurassic Park, which I actually don't really agree with. I don't think this movie is really similar to Jurassic Park at all. But in that sort of similar vein, I'm going to quote Jackie Boy actually from our Star Wars video. In the same way that The Force Awakens is a love letter to A New Hope, Jurassic World is a love letter to Jurassic Park itself. And I'm here for it.
It's like I've always seen like the plot's a little paper thin, like beat for beat somewhat, the first one, but it also feels like it's the first movie directed by Michael Bay. Like Transformers 1 Michael Bay.
I wouldn't say that, but okay. Alrighty, so since I just went through my first pro, pretty much, I have 10 pros.
I'm going as we go along, but I'll say pro number 1. I agree with you. It is a welcome return to the franchise after being dormant. And I think that's why they made it so similar to the first one, is that they did want to, it's very much like one of the Godzilla reboots, like, you know, like the Return of Godzilla or Godzilla 2000 or the recent stuff. It's a way to reintroduce fans to the world, to the universe, to the franchise, and also bring in newcomers. And I will admit, I have seen a lot of kids who have come up and said, I got into this franchise because of Part 4, which I'm like, that's what its job was, it did fantastic. And it is a major pro, because I'd wanted a fourth one for years. It did deliver. And yeah, it's very much a love letter to the first one. And you got to kind of respect Colin and Steven for that. Like, and I love the fact that even Colin, like, he's been a fan since the first one. He actually told stories about how he apparently was grounded from seeing movies the summer of '93, so he would sneak out of his parents' house to go see Jurassic Park on the opening night, so that he knew the theater guys, so they let him in. There's also just a lot of callbacks to other Spielberg's other movies. Like, I'll say this. What's really funny, this is a better version of Jaws 3D in terms of plot. It's Jaws 3D, but with a budget. And actually, fucking... They have a shark that the Mosasaurus eats. There's a theory that the Jaws franchise is connected to the Jurassic movies because the sharks are the first genetic engineered things by InGen. So that shark, that the Mosasaurus, is supposed to be the same height as the shark from Jaws. a 25-foot great white. As some jerk with a camera says, motherfucker ate Jaws. The motherfucker ate Jaws. So that's pro number one. Oh, keep going? Okay. All right, yeah.
As I'm eating gummy sharks. Okay, so okay. Pro number two. Well, we kind of already did talk about this too. But I think this movie has amazing fan service. Not quite as good. I don't think anything ever will top Godzilla King of the Monsters. But in a similar way, no, actually, no, not even similar to. I'll just, because you're probably gonna be hearing us talk about Jurassic World and The Force Awakens a lot in this review. But like The Force Awakens, this movie I think does a really good job of, yes, they're member berries, but I think they're done in a good way, especially, because this movie was done to introduce people to the Jurassic Park franchise 14 years later. The member berries do serve a purpose as like little Easter eggs for the fans, but also little Easter eggs for people to see and be like, oh, was that in the original Jurassic Park? Or is that in the original Jurassic Park? And it gets them to go back to the original movie, which is good. But also, as for little Easter eggs for the fans to pick up on, it is appropriate and it is very welcomed. And that is a big way that makes this movie feel like a solid continuation of the franchise, or at least a solid continuation of the first film. Because it's so closely connected to the first movie, it's not a straight up reboot where it's just trying to push back the original and pull a Disney with the Star Wars sequel trilogy, just trying to replace the originals. No, this feels like Universal legitimately just wanted to expand the franchise and just give us more of what we like. And as somebody who likes what this movie is doing, I just eat it up. I love it. The scene when they go to the original Jurassic Park Visitor Center, I love it. When I first saw this, I had a huge nerdgasm moment. When they picked up When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth banner, I was like, oh, it's the same banner. And when they're driving around in the Jeep, that's cool. All the callbacks to when Henry Wu was working with John Hammond and the mention of Hammond feels like a nice acknowledgement of the franchise's past. And especially getting B.D. Wong to reprise his role as Dr. Wu, that is a nice call to continuity as well. And also, I like the little dig towards Jurassic Park 3 when Rexy is unleashed and right as she is about to fight the Indominus, there's a Spinosaurus skeleton and Rexy crashes her way through it and roars. I feel like that's Colin Trevorrow just saying, okay, yes, we heard you, Jurassic Park 3 haters. Here you go. Here's what you want. A destruction of Spinosaurus. T-Rex overpowers Spinosaurus. Love it. So yeah, not as good as Godzilla King of the Monsters, but the fan service in this movie is very well done. It's very well incorporated. I don't really think it takes away from the movie's plot, really. They're just like nice little Easter eggs and a wink and a smile to the fans, which is appreciated.
Pro number two for me, personally, one of the biggest pros of this movie, the action scenes. The action scenes are flashy, fun, fast-paced, well shot, and just spectacle. I find it is just the whole movie is full of it. It is like, again, like a Michael Bay movie, like a any movie that a summer movie, just action, 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 action. And now, while there's not enough room to do much storytelling and character development, this is a good way to bring people back in. be too slow a pace. Just keep moving with that action. And there's so many scenes, but I'll say one that's in pro number 5, but there's so many great moments in this movie. From the open, like just seeing the park in of itself function is amazing. To see all the dinosaur set pieces, like the scene where Owen, we introduce him with Blue and the Raptor Squad, and he has to save that guy from the Raptor panic where, he puts his, like, listen, I know this is a meme, but, like to see him go toe to toe with a Raptor, you're like, God damn. These things used to be the arch enemies of the franchise, but now we're teaming up with them. We're uniting. I love those moments where enemy rivals become friends. It's sort of that sort of feel to it. You have, all the different dino set pieces, even the gyrosphere with the Ankylosaurus and the Indominus, the Owen riding with the Raptors. I watched that scene again. I'm like, that scene's awesome. It's really fun. I love when it cuts to the kids and Claire's looking at the monitor and the kid says, your boyfriend's a badass. I'm like, that's a great line. Like that, and the chemistry with these two is also good. Yeah, it's cliche. It's simplified. It's Han Solo and Princess Leia to a degree. That sort of, we start bickering and fighting, but let's make out and love each other at the end. Very typical romance, but I'm cool with it because we don't get that. No, it's this. Right? You gotta at least recognize one of those things. Again, and also with the action is, the humor's good. The jokes land. Yeah, it's got a bit of that Marvel humor that we were kind of used to at that time, but it's a lot more on vein with like the original film. Everything with the Raptors is great. Everything with our main antagonist dinosaur, the whole birdcage scene, which is Jurassic Park 3's birdcage on a higher scale. On top of that, taking notes from actually paying homage. This is one thing I do like about the franchise. They take moments that were cut from the original movies and put them in here. With the pteranodons attacking the chopper, that was one of the original endings for The Lost World, where they were going to escape in a helicopter and be attacked by pterosaurs. That one, and in the storyboards for Lost World, you see the pterosaur actually put his beak through the window and stab that guy. So they put that in. I noticed that. I was like, oh, that's cool. I like the fact that they recycle ideas that were never used. That's a good way to do your franchise. If you have stuff that you've never done, that you scrapped, put it here. Like you have stuff with like riding the baby Triceratops, which was something that was in the original movie that got cut. The whole animatronic of the baby trike got cut. And even down to like, even now what we see with Rebirth, if you saw the trailer with the T-Rex in the river, they're doing the river scene that was cut from the first movie. They're doing that now. And I'm like, I can't wait to see that scene because that's out of the novel. So, yes, the action set pieces, spectacular. It is a fun, flashy summer popcorn entertainment, and it makes the movie worth watching. There is the last scene, but I'll bring that up later.
Alrighty, so pro number 3 for me is Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt. Now I had seen Guardians of the Galaxy beforehand, but this honestly is what I think of whenever I think of Chris Pratt. I know there's a lot of fans of Parks and Rec, and there's also a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy fans, which he is good in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just not. I only like the first Guardians, if I'm being honest. I didn't see the third one, but I really wasn't. Well, I mean, I'm very anti-superhero movie now, but the second one just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, so I never really was inclined to check out more of that. But yeah, when I saw that Chris Pratt was in this, I was pleasantly surprised. He does feel like a good, solid leading man to hold up a Jurassic Park movie. And I think he's fantastic. Chris Pratt does a great job in this movie. His acting is kind of similar to what he was doing in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's kind of fun-loving and jovial and goofy. But I actually think he is a bit more serious in this movie. Like, he realizes right off the bat, Like, you can tell that this is a very intelligent and experienced and well-trained guy. Like, he knows his shit. Like, he knows how to handle guns. He knows how to survive. He knows how to handle animals. And he recognizes a monster when he sees one right off the bat. And I really like that. I also really like his no nonsense, no dicking around attitude. Like, he recognizes that we need to evacuate this island. We need to kill this dinosaur. We need to be quiet. We need to cover ourselves in oil to keep ourselves alive. He's just like, go, 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 go. He doesn't diddle daddle. He doesn't hesitate. He's just all action. I've said this before too. I like characters that know how to think on their feet. And Owen is definitely one of those characters. Again, like cutting a brake line and dousing himself in oil to hide his scent from the Indominus. Using his bond with the Velociraptors in his advantage, luring the Velociraptors away from the surviving team towards the end of the movie. Yeah, I love Owen. He's a fantastic addition to the Jurassic Park franchise, and Chris Pratt gives a really solid performance. I love it.
Next. I agree with you 100%. I will say it's interesting because when he was casted, he was only known for Parks and Recreation, but by the time production began, Guardians of the Galaxy became a huge smash hit. So when they were seeing that while they were filming, Stephen and Colin looked at each other and say, boy, did we make the right call casting him, because they knew like they had a superstar on their hands. What I love about Chris Pratt is that when I saw the movie, I was like, I mean, I saw Guardians once and I thought it was okay, but when I saw Jurassic World and I look at Owen and Chris Pratt, I'm like, this is the new Harrison Ford of our generation. This is in fact, I'm one of those people that think, like, I know it was cliche at the time, but if they could do what they do with James Bond in rebooting the franchise with a new actor, I'm going to admit with Indiana Jones, Chris Pratt would be great at that. At playing like a new Indiana Jones, like a new reboot rendition of it, because it doesn't just have to stick with the same series. It can be like James Bond, because that was Spielberg's intention, was to make his own James Bond, and Lucas was like, I got the next best thing, Indiana Jones. So why not do the same tactic here? Get Chris Pratt to be the new Indy. I saw a lot of, with the chemistry with Owen and Claire, it was very Han Solo, Princess Leia, Indiana Jones, Marin sort of relationship. And I like that. Like, down to that punch with Vincent D'Onofrio. Honestly, that is, I swear I heard the Indy punch there. That is a classic Indy punch. Great stuff. But just to add on to what you're doing. But pro number 3 for me is definitely going to be the dinosaurs. And there are a lot. And I mean a lot. Now, we get more and more in every movie, but what I love about this movie is that they tried to take every dinosaur we knew from the previous films and put them all in one basket. The T-Rex, the Raptors, the Ankylosaurus, which was only in part 3, Triceratops, Stegosaurus. We even see like the Pachycephalosaurus makes a cameo. In the monitors, we only see the Pachy's there. The Pteranodons, which were in part 3, these are different designs, or they're smaller, but it's cool to see them. We get new dinosaurs, Dimorphodon, Mosasaurus, all those. Like, I've wanted to see water dinosaurs for a long time. I'm still waiting for them to do an Elasmosaurus or a Plesiosaurus. I would love to see that more than, like, the Mosasaurus that we're seeing in Rebirth again. We need some more marine animals, and just in my opinion. And, obviously seeing Rexy again from the original is fantastic. Like, to see the OG T-Rex back is great. We even get like a hologram cameo of the Dilophosaurus. That was cool. Parasaurolophus, all there. With the exception of the Compies and the Brachiosaurus. Like, there are no Brachiosauruses. There are no Compies. You do hear one in the background, so it's assuming that they're on another part of the island. But wouldn't it be cool to see the Brachiosaurus? But we get in its place the Apatosaurus, which has never been seen in these franchises. And I guess because Apatosaurus is more the traditional long neck. So it's, and before it was Brontosaurus, but it's cool to see it here. It is cool to see Jurassic Park do that creature. I would love to see them do something with Diplodocus. That would be, how are you going to do that one? But yeah, the dinosaurs, fantastic. Even down to our main antagonist, the Indominus Rex. What a creature. What a great design. I've seen the original concepts. There are some really freaky looking designs. They look more so on par with something you'd see in Peter Jackson's Skull Island. But with this, it's phenomenal. Like, it's a perfect mix. It's a perfect balance of all the creatures that it's spliced with. There's T-Rex, there's Raptor, there's even a little bit of Spino in there, I will admit. I feel like there might have been some Spino in the design. There's a lot of that put into this, and it's a great creature. In fact, and honestly, like, watching it again, I was getting chills because I had, when we filmed our reviews, we had utilized the Jurassic World exhibition where we got to interact with full-size animatronics, and one of them was the Indominus Rex. And even working with that, like, scan Winston quality, that was terrifying in of itself to interact with that. So I felt that watching this movie. It's a great villain. It's not, as Spielberg says, that's not a dinosaur. That's a monster. And the fact that the other dinosaurs sort of have to unite to take out the monster, phenomenal. So the dinosaurs here are great. There is an exception in the cons that I'll bring up later, but we'll talk about it at that point. But yeah, dinosaurs, can't go wrong.
I want to get through a couple minor pros first. So pro number 4 for me is the music score in this movie. I think is really solid. It was done by Michael Giacchino, I think is how you pronounce it.
Don't worry, I don't know how to pronounce it either.
He's known for his collaborations with directors J.J. Abrams, Brad Bird, Matt Reeves, Colin Trevorrow, and Gareth Edwards, amongst many others, including the Wachowskis and Taika Waititi. His film scores include Mission Impossible, Jurassic World, the MCU, the Star Trek reboot series, Pixar, Rogue One, and The Batman. So he's obviously a very experienced music composer, and he's done a lot of music for a lot of big movies. And the music score for Jurassic World, I think, is really, really solid. Sometimes it's just sort of generic, big budget popcorn action movie music, but that's what this movie is, so I don't really have much of a complaint towards that. But I also do like, this is probably the biggest part of the fan service. They do incorporate a lot of music from John Williams' score for Jurassic Park, which I think is very appropriate. That's probably the biggest way that they really sell this movie feeling like another Jurassic Park movie. Aside from showing dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, and the Jurassic World logo is in Jurassic Park font, like what Jackie Boy is wearing, it's literally it's the same symbol but with Jurassic World. But the music, but the music is what really makes that like hit home. Kind of like with what they did with the Shire theme in the first Hobbit movie. It just makes you feel like, I'm home. I've waited so long, and it's finally here. So I love it. My next pro, this one's also kind of minor. I think the suspense in this movie is quite solid. It's mainly safe for like the first third or so of the movie when they're building up to the reveal of the Indominus Rex. I think it's really solid. That also kind of does feel like what they were doing with Rexy in the first Jurassic Park. They like show tiny little bits and pieces of her in the background here and there. Like you see her move behind bushes, and then there's a close up of her eye. And when she first escapes, you see her claws, you see her feet, You see like little bits of her flash by the screen. They try to hide her a little bit. Not in a way that they're trying to like hide the effects. Thankfully, they had a huge budget to work with this movie, but they were doing it to like make the scene more intense and more claustrophobic and scary. But then, of course, they finally do showcase the entirety of the Indominus Rex, and she's showcased in full glory for the rest of the movie. But another piece of suspense too is when when the non-lethal team is going out to try to capture her. They're looking around the jungle. They're honing in on her tracking beacon, and then they see this hunk of flesh that she clawed out of herself with the tracking beacon in it. And then they're like, "Wait a minute." And they do this too earlier when they do a thermal scan of her enclosure. They can't find her, so like, what the hell? But they find the tracking beacon. They're looking around trying to find her, and then she slowly comes out of the forest, and then it's revealed she can camouflage herself just like a chameleon or a cuttlefish. It's a really good twist, and it's a good job at upping the stakes and upping the ante with this movie's monster. Yeah, this is not just a dinosaur. This is a full-blown monster, like a mini kaiju. And I love it.
It's all your fault.
Jack, next.
Pro number, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, but pro number, what am I on? Like 4 is, I agree with Nick. The music's fantastic. Michael Giacchino actually was a perfect choice for this, if not John Williams or Don Davis, because he had actually worked on the franchise before. He had actually composed the score to the Lost World video game back in '97 for the PS1. So he was already very familiar with doing the music for these movies, and here he brings it. He not only brings the themes of John Williams from the first movie, and as well as new themes, but there are hints of his score to the Lost World video game. Little bits here and there. There are, yes, I agree, some generic action moments, but he does make it his own in terms of adding to the franchise. Like the track Chasing the Dragons is a great theme, which is the Owen Blue theme of them like fighting and kicking ass, and it's awesome. Very Jungle Trek-y, very, very Skull Island-ish in a way, modern Skull Island. And on top of that, outside of the Indominus Rex theme is also great. It feels like a sequel or a follow-up to a theme that was in the original Jurassic Park, which is the Raptor theme. In the original film, the Raptor theme was ba 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 boom, or anytime tense or danger came in. And with the Indominus theme, it's ba 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 bum. Something that actually in Dominion they mix together both the InGen Raptor theme and the Indominus theme, and they work fantastic. For me, my favorite part of the score is obviously in the climax, but it's mainly one piece that really brought the nostalgia out for me, and it's when Blue comes back to help Rexy, where they play a sample of the Lost World theme, which I'm very hit or miss. If I like the Lost World theme more, get away from her, you bitch! It's a very much that vibe. I'm very, very mixed on whether I like the first film's theme, which is iconic, or am I more fond of the Lost World theme? The Lost World is very much Max Steiner. Max Steiner's King Kong. But it's very much the two are mixed together. I would actually love to see Rebirth use the Lost World theme. If they can get that in there, that would just, I think, because it's weird that Lost World is now kind of being shoved aside. Like 2 and 3 are shoved aside so much. And it's a shame, because Lost World is, my opinion, the best, still the best sequel to any of the movies. Like Jurassic World is relatively close, a close second, but I do prefer Lost World. But with the music, Michael did a great job. I forgot one other franchise he did was the Spider-Man movies as well. So he's done a lot. He's sort of like, well, we don't want to get new music, So let's just hire the guy who does themes for other people's stuff now, because we can't get John Williams. We can't get Alan Silvestri. Let's just do it here. So yeah, the music for me is phenomenal. It's a good score. Now, does it carry over to the next two films? Fallen Kingdom's relatively close. Dominion's forgettable. But honestly, like, World is a really good score. It is pretty much on par with the third film score, but it does carry its own.
Well, speaking of which, pro number, I think this is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5. No, 6. Yeah, pro number 6, the Indominus Rex. I fucking love this thing. This, so, with a man whose name will not be mentioned on this stream, I did a video with this guy a long time ago talking about our top 20 favorite giant monsters. And the Indominus Rex actually was on that list. I think it was number 13. And while, yeah, this is just a dinosaur, but it's also a monster, I will stick to that claim and say this is one of my favorite giant monsters of all time. I love the Indominus's, or the Indo, as I call it. I love the Indo's design. It does look very T-Rex-ish at points. But I also really like the idea of hybrid monsters, as I talked about once before with Trevor Thompson in my Alien versus Predator Requiem video. The idea of a giant hybrid monster going around, I think, is a really cool concept. Taking all of these bits and pieces from these other creatures and putting them all into one package is a cool concept. I am aware that there was a Jurassic Park concept long before this that would have featured a dinosaur called the Ultimasaurus, which would have been a supersized T-Rex with a Triceratops frill and horns and a bunch of other, like an Ankylosaurus tail club. It was literally all these pieces of different dinosaurs thrown into one. Now, the Indominus is obviously not as wild and admittedly a little ridiculous as that concept, but it's a completely new dinosaur. It's a completely original dinosaur. And what I love about it is that it's not just a dinosaur. It's an extremely intelligent villain. Yeah, pretty much kind of looking something like that. But I love how intelligent it is. It doesn't just feel like a mindless monster. It's a cold, calculating killing machine. Kind of like the Predalien in Alien vs. Predator Requiem. It has its own person, or she has her own personality. She's very sinister. She's very sadistic. She's very dangerous and probably a little psychopathic as well. She's a monster. She's a giant monster, and she's awesome and entertaining as fuck. She is also a complete tank powerhouse. She fucks up everything that gets in her way. She slaughters both attack teams. She slaughters the fucking Ankylosaurus. I mean, the Ankylosaur literally whacks it aside with its tail, knocking it over once. And the Indo just gets right back up and manages to flip over an 8-ton Ankylosaurus and just snap its neck so easily. Its claws pierce right through the gyrosphere. And hold up. It's able to fucking almost swallow this, because one thing about the Indominus is that it's able to open its mouth like 1/3 wider than even the T-Rex. So it's able to get almost the entire gyrosphere inside its throat, and it can bite straight through the gyrosphere glass, because they state that the glass of the gyrospheres is able to withstand a 50 caliber bullet. And she's able to just shank one of her claws into the gyrosphere and pierce right through it, no problem willy-nilly. And she's able to bite down onto it and get all her teeth inside of it too. She also comes off as being very sinisterly intelligent. Like, she almost has a sixth sense in finding her victims, like finding Owen and Claire inside the old visitor center. Just like, how the hell did she know she was there? Going into the aviary and spooking all of the pterosaurs to go on a rampage, using the fact that it's part raptor to its advantage to get the raptors to fight with her. Yeah, I absolutely love the Indominus Rex. I love her design, love her color scheme. I love how much shit she fucks up in this movie. She is just a badass motherfucking monster, and I love it. And honestly, this isn't really a con, but it's kind of a shame they killed her off. Not a con by any means, but still, the Indominus Rex is fucking awesome, and I love it. Spared no expense in making it as awesome as possible.
You bring up that it's like its mouth opens wide and stuff. It's like a snake. It's like it has some snake in it where it kind of like swells it. So it's kind of like Orga in Godzilla 2000, where it can like devour shit so easily. It's a cool creature. Now when it comes to my next pro, this is sort of my last pro with the film. The cinematography and production design, I think, is amazing. Is compared to Fallen Kingdom and Rebirth, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of turning Jurassic Park with the CinemaScope widescreen. I think it looks too much like a Doug McClure dinosaur adventure in that degree. But when it comes to this and Dominion, it has an advantage because of the open matte way of filming it. Now, it's a little bit more cropped than the original movies, but it still maintains that aspect ratio that is prominent and consistent with the previous films. So that is one thing, but it's also just a matter of how it's shot, how it's visually put together. I like sort of this clean look that just gets just devastated by the end of it. And even when we do explore the old park, I like that we see it overgrown and all that. Very Lost World vibe. But just in terms of production design, the movie's got it all. It is a total... I could tell, because I visited the park many a times, it's very much playing on the look of Universal City Walk, especially in the main lobby area. It's very Universal Studios, where it's the City Walk where you see all, like, before you go into the parks, there is like a big city walk that has a bunch of different restaurants and gift shops and everything. Like, down to there's a Margaritaville and Jimmy Buffett makes a cameo as the Pteranodons come in holding 2 margaritas. And actually at Universal Orlando, there's a Margaritaville that looks exactly like it, which I think is a nice nod. There's even things like it's got a lot of that to it. There's a few cameos from other people in this movie. You have a cameo from Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Kimmel makes a cameo, or Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon makes a cameo.
He was funny.
And it's ironic because I feel like it's almost like a predecessor for what was to come with the Jimmy Fallon ride, which is awful, by the way. Why replace Twister with that? What is wrong with you? To be fair, it used to be Ghostbusters. But anyway, Jimmy Fallon makes a cameo. I swear at one point that one of the guards was played by the guy who plays the agent in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I can't remember what the character's name is. The main agent in the Avengers that's next to Nick Fury that gets killed. And everybody's like, no, I like that guy. I swear it was him. It's not. I looked into it. But there's even, like, actually one thing you'll notice, there is a slight Jeff Goldblum cameo. Because at the beginning of the movie, Claire's assistant who looks after the kids, when they're on the monorail heading to the park, she's reading a book written by Ian Malcolm. It's his Chaos book. So she's reading that, which is a nice little cameo. Outside of B.D. Wong, there's not many other cameos from previous characters. I mean, Mr. DNA's in there. But I will say the cinematography and the production design is spectacular. The fact that they actually took advantage of an abandoned theme park with Six Flags for the main city walk of the park, that was smart. And what's really funny is that now when I watch the movie, having watched all of Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory currently, I love the fact that when, like, prime example, when you see the helicopter chasing the Indominus with a minigun, all I'm thinking is, somewhere in the background, the kids at Camp Cretaceous are seeing this shit. They're like, oh, we're screwed. But to the point is that the cinematography is great and the production design is spectacular. It shows a fully functioning park. With the other first film, we saw sort of the prototype of what was to come, but with Jurassic World, Hammond's vision is fully realized. We see it down to where there is a statue of him. And I do like that. I wish we would have seen more of that, like a little bit more with Hammond and his legacy. But honestly, like, how cool would it have been to see like a presentation show, like a little like show that's kind of like at Disneyland, where you see like footage of Hammond like opening the park and everything. That would have been kind of cool if they did something like that. Like, it's sort of like a Walt Disney in a way. So for me, yeah, the production design and cinematography, great.
Pro number 7 for me, this will be kind of brief, but is Blue, the Velociraptor. Now, I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of Velociraptors. I mean, in the first movie, they're probably the most iconic. But honestly, Blue is probably my favorite Velociraptor of the entire series. I love her bond that she has with Owen. It feels very genuine. And I know there was some weird shipping incels that were trying to ship a human and a dinosaur together after this. That got a little questionable and creepy. But here, I think it's really well done. Their bond and their relationship with each other, it's kind of sweet. And I definitely also do think, real quick, Owen Grady is an actor that works really good with CGI, kind of like Brendan Fraser. Even though he's literally just taking a harness off of a CG character, I totally buy it as him actually putting his hands next to a very deadly dinosaur. But she too also feels, not as much as the Indominus Rex, but she feels like her own 3D character. She is somewhat expressive. Like, when her like lips start curling and snarling, you can obviously tell she's very agitated and hyper and pissed off. But when her facial features soften when she's looking at Owen at the end, it's very believable. And when she looks at him for the last time before she runs off into the park at the end of the movie, her look almost seems like she's saying, I'll see you around. Take care of yourself. And then she runs away. But yeah, turning a Velociraptor into essentially like an anti-hero or a hesitant ally for the humans, I think is a really cool concept. And in a way where it's not like master and servant, it's more just like platonic friend and friend. I think it's really well done, and I actually think it's kind of cute. So yeah, I love Blue. I love her design too. Gray bluish skin with a very prominent blue stripe down each side of her body. It's very striking, very recognizable, and just cool. So yeah, I love Blue. Next.
So how many pros do you have left?
3.
3? Okay, because I'm already done with my pros, but I do agree with the Blue thing that she is a great addition to the franchise, a great new addition. Like, yes, she's more paying a homage to the Raptor of the designs of the original. Would I have wanted to see more of the upgraded and evolution design that we saw in Part 3? Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that more, but I do like, again, you're returning it to what the first film was, so you have to make a recognition of that, but also be new and unique. It's funny because one of the original ideas for Part 4 during the development stage was very much that concept between man and beast, the relationship with raptor and human, where one of the main characters of the fourth movie for the longest time was, of all people, Billy from the third one, where he was going to form a bond with a raptor pack and become one of them, very Tarzan-esque. And it kind of reminded, I read that script, it's very much kind of like Avatar, where it's like he's Jake Sully at this point, where it's not to that deep extent with the Na'vi, but he does become more like, he basically, what happens is he gets like ambushed by the raptors, and then they don't kill him, but he keeps his distance and he starts to become one with the pack. And that would have been a cool concept, would have redeemed him for his events in the third film. But I find it interesting that like they carry that over somewhat to the connection between Blue and Owen. And it's great. Like, I agree with you that they are a great duo. They're a great team. Yes, I am aware of the fan shipping, but I think that comes more around the fact that while the relationship, like the romance between Owen and Claire is good, it's very typical. Some people, I think the reason why that spawned was some people said, the romance sucks. I believed more in the chemistry between him and Blue. And then it went overboard to some degree. I will admit, like, the ones with the Raptor Squad being human in terms of artwork is kind of cool. That is actually kind of charming to me. But in terms of shipping them, okay, you're getting into like Sailor Moon, the second Sailor Moon movie levels of weird, because in that one, Luna falls in love with a guy and she wants to be human. So, anyway, yeah, you go with your pros because I'm already at my cons.
Pro number 8 is that there's some good kills in this movie. I'd probably say this is the second most violent movie in the Jurassic Park series. So the one that really took me off guard the most was when the Indominus Rex was attacking the non-lethal team. She picks up one of the dudes in her mouth, and it's obscured by a tree branch. So it kind of feels like they're channeling Steven Spielberg a little bit. But in this case, they actually trump Spielberg, because while we don't see the person get eaten, there's a bunch of blood splattering all over the place, which took me by surprise. The Indominus also like picks up one dude and like chomps down on him and tears off his legs and his arms.
Like a chicken bone.
And then that second dude that she eats when she first breaks out, when she just knocks over the truck, just chomp, eats him in one bite. And how she fucks up the rest of the non-lethal team. She steps on one dude and squishes him, knocks over a few dudes with her tail, sends one dude flying, and just goes against a tree branch and breaks him in half. The Raptors also kill a few people. They eat people and tear them apart. And probably the most satisfying kill is when Vincent D'Onofrio gets killed by, I think it was Delta, it was Delta, charges into the lab, and he's like trying to stick his hand out saying, I'm on your side, bites his hand off and then tears him apart, and there's a big splash of blood against the wall. That took me by surprise. I was very happy when his character got killed off. I actually applauded first time I saw that. This movie, it doesn't feel tame. This movie is pretty intense. It's got some gnarly kills. Oh, probably the most surprising kill in the whole movie is Zara. She gets picked up by a pteranodon and then dropped, picked up again, and then dropped into the mosasaur tank. Gets picked up by a pteranodon again, and then the fucking mosasaur comes up and bites down on both and drags them into the ocean. I was like, damn, I didn't see that coming. What the fuck? So yeah, that was pretty entertaining and shocking. There's also a few dino kills that are pretty intense too, namely when the Indominus kills the Ankylosaurus by literally just snapping its neck with one bite. I was like, oh damn, that's gnarly. And how the Mosasaur kills the Indominus Rex is also quite shocking and surprising. Despite one little minor issue that I have with it, which we're going to say for later. Don't even think about it.
I have one
No.
more pro.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about this because, yes, I will say the kills are great. I will say this. I actually look back on like all 4 films. This is not only the last movie to show kills because 5 and 6 don't keep cutting away, but I think this is the most graphic because you look at the first film, yeah, it's pretty scary and graphic, but what's weird is with all 3 films, there's not much blood. Yeah, we see Ray Arnold's limb in the first one, which, fun fact, Jurassic Collectibles owns Sam Jackson's arm. But what's funny is that compared to the other films, this is the bloodiest. Like, there is a lot of blood in this one. You don't see that in the other movies, if at all. There's, obviously the blood that spits on the lens when the Indominus picks up that one guard and it splashes. There's the blood from Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah, we see the kills here. And what I wonder is, how did we go from this? And then with the other films, we stopped doing that. Were parents complaining that there was too much violence? Was it, I don't know what it was, but something about that was a little bit like, okay, well, you up the ante, and now with the other movies, we don't do that anymore. What the fuck?
I have one theory. It's Universal trying to scale back so they can sell more toys. Moving on.
But my last pro, I forgot to mention this, the ending. The ending. Probably next to the original and the Lost World, best ending in the franchise. Hands down. The climax slaps hard. The third act slaps, but it's mainly that last 10 minutes is phenomenal. And I would say that would start with the Owen, with the group and the 3 raptors cornering them. That's where it starts. It's spectacular to see that, yeah, these things are going to kill you, Owen, but then he builds that trust. There's that sweet moment. Then the Indo comes in. Then the Raptors tag team it. All that, and just shit hits the fan. And then you have, and what I love is just the Indominus is trying to communicate with them. It's almost like it's saying, "What are you waiting for, you fools? Destroy them!" And Blue's like looking up. He's like, "Don't worry, I got your back, Star-Lord. I got this. Back away!" And it's like, "You fool!" That's how I imagine the Indominus. He's like, "You foolish bitch!" And it's so good. And oh my god, I know people complained that the T-Rex was barely in this movie. It was so smart to save that for the very end. We got a little tease middle through the movie with the goat, and you forget that she's in it. But when she comes out, and yeah, by the way, the other kills with the Raptors and killing the squad group, that was very Aliens, very much a nod to Aliens. But
right down to the use of gun cams.
Yeah, but would be cool if the gun sounds make the same sounds as the pulse rifles from Aliens. That would be cool. Give me Xenomorphosaurus. There we go. Xenoraptors.
Actually, that has happened, but that's beside the point.
Anyway,
moving on.
So the Rexy coming out, the flare is a little much, but if you know this animal, you know the attraction it has. And I love that whole fight is spectacular. It makes up for part 3. It also just is, it's just, this is what people pay for, is to see listen, we love dinosaurs, but you want to up the wow factor? Make them fight. This is what we're craving. Godzilla 2014 was a year before, kind of giving us sort of what we've been asking for by the end, even though I couldn't see a fucking thing in that movie. But it set the stage for audiences to saying, can we get more monsters fighting? For me, the vibe for me was Beast Wars. It's a very Beast War-esque thing. And from the choreography, the way it's shot, some people complained it reminded them of one of the Transformers movies. Like, you could literally put, when they're fighting, you could put Optimus and Megatron going, "They deserve to choose for themselves," and shit like that. But I also love the music used. Michael Giacchino created this fight theme where you hear like this chanting, like it's almost like, I always pictured it either being the people in the park chanting, or it's the dinosaurs chanting. They're all rooting for which side to win, and it's very, very Final Battle. They kind of reminded me of the Dark Knight Rises, like the Bane theme a little bit, but it was just so cool to get that in there. It's very King Kong to a degree, because I like where it goes King Kong is where you have Claire laying down and the Rex is almost like protecting her. So it's almost like Kong defending his woman. There's a bit of that vibe to it, which, oh damn, that'd be cool to see like a re-edit of the T-Rex fight, but like using the same angles from this movie. Yes. There's a lot of that thrown in that fight. It's just, and it just goes on. And when you think the Rex is down, I'm like everybody else. I was screaming Mickey and Rocky from Rocky, "Get up, you bum! Get up, Rex! Get up, you son of a bitch!" And then fucking Blue, you hear the call, Lost World, and she jumps in, and I never expected that, like a tag team match. That was Transformers. That was Transformers 3 when like Megatron comes out for Sentinel. Like, here comes Blue, like, "This is my planet." And all that's great. And then, obviously, the Endo getting Deep Blue Seed by the Mosasaurus. Like, we're going to seal off this. Ah! It's just the best way I can describe it. It's very much on par with, like, the Charge of the Rohirrim in Return of the King. I was looking at the screen going, that is so cool! That is awesome! I remember, oh man, again, you regret being in the theater. Man, opening night for that, the audience was cheering. I hadn't felt that in a while. We were hollering and cheering going on. It was laughs in the theater. It was great. Despite whatever you say about this movie, critic or not, everybody has to admit that third act was worth the price alone. Full price IMAX 3D for that shit. They knew how to end it. They knew what we wanted, and they delivered. And it was great. Do I want more of this type of stuff? Yeah, Dominion kind of just, the only thing is Dominion kind of just shoehorned the same thing. So it kind of felt lackluster. But do I want more of these type of fights with different dinosaurs? Yeah, that's what I paid for a dinosaur movie. Not only to see the visuals, not only to see the kills, but I want these creatures fighting each other. I want to see that collision because it's just cool. That was like, that is what it was sort of also, you say we bring it up that it started the nostalgia trend. I also think it started the trend of what I call filmmakers playing with their action figures. Basically, you take your toys and you're doing the equivalent of kids going, and it's like, blah, 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 and they say, oh, there's our animatic. There's our animatic for the whole movie.
Well, it also does help that Universal also teamed up with Legendary Pictures to put this movie out too. So that actually adds, or is like a good segue into pro number 9 is, yeah, this movie has amazing action scenes. And one thing I love about this movie, it's near nonstop. You have some setup in the first act, and then you have the slow build up and the slow easing into of the rampage of the Indominus Rex. But once she breaks out of her paddock, she's just like, go, 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 go. Breaks out of her paddock, fucks up the non-lethal team, fucks up the ankylosaurs, breaks into the aviary, fucks up the assault team, fights the T-Rex and gets killed. This movie is near nonstop action up until around the 40-minute mark, and it's entertaining as all living shit. Nary a scene drags, nothing feels wasted. It's just go, 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 go. And I fucking love it. It's very explosive, very loud, very high high stakes, fast paced, big, bombastic, flashy, entertaining as all living shit, and it's so fucking cool. And yes, of course, the third act is really when shit gets real. When the Raptors kill the assault team, yes, it does feel very Aliens. It's a little short, but I mean, you could call the Indominus Rex kind of her own queen alien, and it works. But once Owen like regains his bond with Blue and the other Raptors, that's when shit really gets real. And then, of course, once Claire unleashes Rexy and we get an end of the movie dinosaur fight, it's fucking spectacular. Rexy is just plowing right into the Indominus Rex, knocking her into buildings, biting down on her and thrashing her around. And then the Indominus actually puts up a fight and puts Rexy on her back foot and is about to seemingly finish her off. But then we have that awesome return of Blue with the Lost World music, and she just charges assholes and elbows and yeets herself onto to the Indominus. And it is a great, albeit kind of short, tag team fight with Rexy and Blue versus the Indominus. And I like that Blue jumps onto Rexy's back and kind of acts as Rexy's backup. Whenever she starts to falter, then Blue jumps on and starts fucking up the Indominus, and they just go back and forth.
Toss me!
And I really like that once the Indominus is killed off, Rexy and Blue look at each other, and it's like, job well done. And then Rexy goes off, does her thing, and then Blue goes off and does her thing. And then, as I said, like I mentioned, the movie ends with Rexy proclaiming herself the queen of the dinosaurs on Isla Nublar. Yeah, the third act is really when this movie just goes all out crazy, and it's entertaining as all living fuck. And this will lead me into pro number 10, the fantastic array of special effects showcased in this movie. You can tell that this movie had $150 to $215 million budget. All the sets look great. All the vehicles look really good. All of the cinematography and camera work is really well done. This is a very well shot film. Both showcasing the island and the forests, making them look beautiful and serene. But when the Indominus is on the loose, it kind of does give you a little bit of a claustrophobic, being stalked kind of vibe, which I like. But yeah, the main showcase is all of the CGI. All the holograms look really good. All the green screen and composite shots all look spectacular. And all of the dinosaurs look fucking spectacular. I don't have a whole lot to say about the dinosaurs because they're just kind of cameos. Rexy is really cool, of course, and all the velociraptors look fantastic, and the Indominus Rex looks fucking absolutely spectacular. The CG is very well detailed, it's very well animated, it's very crisp and smooth. I totally buy it as a real dinosaur. Same for Rexy, same for Blue. All the ankylosaurs look really good. The apatosaurs look really good. The baby triceratops look cute and adorable. And the one scene of animatronics that made it into the film, when Owen and Claire comfort that apatosaurus before it dies, the head and neck was, I'm pretty sure it was a animatronic. I am pretty sure that Universal might have pulled another 2010 Wolfman or Thing 2011, in that there may have been more animatronic effects, but they painted it over with CGI. And if that is true, I don't really have... Well, I mean, of course it is a shame, but unlike 2010 Wolfman and Thing 2011, if they did do that, here they at least did it well, because all the CGI in this movie looks absolutely spectacular. They spared no expense on the special effects. This is a big, bombastic creature feature action movie. So, of course, all the creatures and all the action scenes and explosions look fucking phenomenal. Some of the best special effects of any big budget mainstream movie of the last 10 years, and still holding strong. And I also like, this is coming to me real quick, about Rexy. I like that they showcase the biggest giveaway that this is Rexy is she still has scars from when she fought the velociraptors at the end of the first movie. When the camera pans over to her when she first gets to that helicopter, you can see the white scars on her neck and torso, and that's the biggest giveaway. Oh yeah, that is Rexy, of course. So I like that attention to detail. Yeah, the special effects in this movie are fantastic. Have zero complaints. All righty, now hold on. I have 4 mixed elements, and I have 1 con, but none of them are real deal breakers. How many cons do you have?
I have about 5.
Let me get through my stuff first. Admittedly, I just don't really have a whole lot to say about these. Mixed element number 1 is, while Rexy's fight with the Indominus is, of course, really cool, I do think it's a tad too short. Like, she shows up, she barrels her way into the Indominus, and she lands some good hits, but then the Indominus overpowers her. Now, that is helped by Blue's return, but then after that, the fight feels a little rushed. Like, the tag team between Blue and Rexy against the Indominus is really cool. But yeah, it just feels a little rushed. I would have liked to see just a little bit more focus on Rexy and Blue versus the Indo. Did we really need to follow the characters as they make their way through that gift shop and then the restaurant, and then Blue gets knocked into the restaurant, and then we then focus on the fight? No, we didn't need to see that. Dominion does this even worse. It's a minor spoiler for Dominion. And this will lead me into mixed element number 2. While the end kill with the Mosasaur killing the Indominus is really cool, and it's a big, pleasant surprise, it is kind of a deus ex machina, and it's a little anticlimactic. It's not as bad as Tremors 3 or the original Jurassic Park, which that may have been just like another nod to the original Jurassic Park. Like, you know, the T-Rex saves the humans from the velociraptors, and now the Mosasaur kind of returns the favor years later by saving the T-Rex from another big dinosaur. So it's cool, but it's over in the snap of a finger. The Indominus puts up 0 fight against the Mosasaur. It just gets chomped on and then yanked into the lagoon. Dead.
I mean, add to that, and I have a question for you regarding that, because I'm very hit or miss. Like, I love the Mosasaurus over the top, like, final kill. But are you also conflicted? Do you wish Rexy got the final kill? Like, maybe
I do.
As a respect, as a even match to part 3, where, because the biggest complaint everybody says with the T-Rex in the third one, when it bites down on the Spino's neck, that's it. It's over. That mouth is meant to crush bone.
Well, apparently, recently it has been revealed that Rexy's bite is not quite as strong as a paleo-accurate, fully grown T-Rex. But she still could bite down with about 25,000 pounds per square inch. So that's a strong bite. So yes, I do think Rexy should have been the one to, if not kill the Indominus Rex, maybe at least mortally wound the Indominus Rex. And then the Mosasaur comes in and just yanks her into the lagoon. There you go.
Yeah,
Rexy still wins.
If she, like, bought down, snapped its neck, and then started crawling, and then the Mosasaurus just dragged her, that would have been fun. You could also say that she's old, so her bite isn't as strong as it used to be.
Yeah, but also it's been revealed that T-Rex just got bigger and bigger the older they got. So I don't think that would have really mattered all that much.
She was really thin too. If you notice, compared to the original version, she's
She's a
very
little
thin.
emaciated, yeah, but still, I do wish that Rexy could have been the one to kill off the Indominus. And mixed element number 3 is out aside from one, outside of Owen, the cast is just kind of generic and a little forgettable. Like the technical main two, like the chick from Orange is the New Black and the Jurassic Park shirt dude. I can't stand that dude. He's just too influencer hippie annoying to me. I really could have done without him.
To be fair, they were cast members from Colin's previous film, Safety Not Guarantee. Although I do like the one line that Clara gives him. I want you to open Paddock 9. Are you crazy? Damn it, dude, do something with your life. Why do you gotta make it personal?
Yeah, that was funny.
That was funny. That was good.
And Zach and Gray. Zach does not make a very good impression for first impression for himself because he comes off as a very disinterested, snotty, bratty teenager, and especially like he has a girlfriend, but then he's just ogling and gazing and eye fucking every other girl that's on the island. This was funny. Gray is just like, what do you expect them to do if you just keep staring at them? It's like, dude, can you at least make your ogling subtle?
Yeah, I noticed that. He's kind of a bit of a cheater there, ain't he?
And like his attitude for the first half of the movie, it's very off-putting. He just looks so disinterested. Like Gray is running all over the place, happy as all can be, and he's just like, ugh, fuck this, like a typical teenager. Now the second half does improve his relationship with Gray. Like he steps up to be a more protective older brother, which is nice. But in the end, too, I just kind of think Zach and Gray were just thrown in as kid characters that younger viewers of the audience could attach themselves to. And especially since they don't show up for the rest of the series, they just feel kind of pointless retroactively, in my opinion.
They're the Jurassic kids. The typical, it's a contractual obligation. You have to put a kid in every, like, even Rebirth. When they showed the kid in the trailer, I'm like, oh, come on. Can we break away from this formula? Bringing kids into a dangerous place full of man-eaters? Okay, if Rebirth has the kid get eaten, I will actually applaud it. I'll be like, you know what? Balls.
I don't think that's going to happen, but besides
the point. Cool, though. But, yeah, it's the typical Jurassic kids, and, yeah, it's kind of an obligation. But again, granted, the kids are good actors. Like, didn't the one little brother end up being the kid in Iron Man 3? The same kid, I think.
And my last mixed element is Claire, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. I do like Bryce Dallas Howard as an actress. She is good. And like she does a good job in this movie, and her chemistry with Owen is solid at times. But I too think that there's just something about her that doesn't really click for me. Like her attitude at first is just very high-strung, highfalutin, stick up the ass, snobby secretary or some shit like that. And I don't really buy her coming out of her shell and proving that she's a strong, independent woman. I just think it's not nearly as forced and stupid as the sequel Star Wars trilogy tries to do. Don't get me wrong. And she doesn't come off as being a complete bitch. But then all of a sudden in the second half of the movie, she's like pulling out flares and outrunning a T-Rex. She's picking up a trank gun and gunning down dinosaurs. I just don't really buy, like, all of a sudden, where's these badass skills coming out of? I think that would have been a better thing to do for the next movie, because she presumably stays with Owen. During that time, he would have taught her how to take better care of herself. Not necessarily to make her a damsel in distress in this movie, because one thing that I do like, they do use the fact that she's very familiar with the layout of the park in order to use assets to their advantage to make their way around where the Indominus Rex might be going, to avoid her or to save the kids or to just keep themselves alive. I like that they utilize her knowledge of the park, but mainly just her being a badass dinosaur fighter. It just feels a little out of place. Although when she this could be like incorporated into her using the park's knowledge to their advantage. Her unleashing Rexy was really cool too, so I'll give it that as well. But I don't know, I just have very mixed opinions on Claire. Bryce Dallas Howard does a good job playing her, but I don't know, there's just something about her that just kind of doesn't quite fit for me.
Especially
Actually,
the fact
I
that
do
she
think,
outruns the Rex on heels.
yeah, that's another big no-no for me. I mean, yes, fully grown dinosaurs weren't very fast, but you can't really outrun a T-Rex, especially not wearing heels.
And
No.
they what are they, 32 miles an hour?
No, about 15.
What
It's
did
still
John
fast
Hammond
enough.
say? We clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour.
Oh, well, this is a Retrosaur T-Rex. But regardless, a 7-ton, 40-foot-long T-Rex, you're still not going to outrun that. But regardless, moving on. So how many cons do you have again?
I have 5.
Go ahead.
Con number 5, and it's a very hit or miss thing.
1. You said 1. You said 5. It's con number 1.
Oh, con number 1. Very hit or miss. Unlike you, I am very mixed on the visual effects. Now, this is still ILM. This is still Industrial Light and Magic, the company behind the last 3 films, doing all the major CG effects. And here, it's great. It's still consistent with the other films, upgrades in technology, better graphics, better computers. All that is great. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is little to no animatronics. Believe it or not, the Apatosaurus was the only animatronic in the film.
That's what I thought.
And it was CG'd over, but only the rest of the body. The rest was practical. The head and everything, they kept that. I have a major issue with the close. Okay, granted, it's nice to like test the boundaries and say, hey, let's make the close-ups. Let's push the CG. Let's see how close we can get. If we can't compare between the animatronic and CGI. Now, there are 1 or 2 times it fooled me, namely with the Indominus in the trees with that eye shot and like under when Owen's like covering himself in gasoline and the Indominus's head. There were times I couldn't tell if that was an animatronic. And even like with Blue at the end when he's like taking the thing off her and stuff, like there's a couple of shots. I'm like, is that an animatronic? However, I do think the film would have benefited in the realism if they utilized a few more animatronics, namely with the raptors in some of the close-ups, and namely in the moment, like what I think the worst CG effect for me, personally, is the raptors' heads with the muzzle in the cage. Because I could tell at that point that is CGI. It does not look good. And to prove my point, you go to Universal Orlando, you go to Jurassic Park, and you do the Velocicoaster, which is a great roller coaster, very fast, very, very tight, very, very, like, it could give you a heart attack. But they have that moment in the film done practically and visually with animatronics. This is something I've seen at many Jurassic World attractions, is seeing the raptors in the muzzle piece. And when I look at that, That is more convincing than them in the film because it's right there. It's in front of me. It's moving. Its eyes blink. It dials back. The teeth move. The fog in the nose is there. It's wet. So I look. How is it that the ride has better than the movie? So there are moments where animatronics could have benefited some shots in the movie. I'm not asking for the whole thing to be practical. I will give credit to Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. They have an advantage with this one with the effects where they have more practicality, which makes it more believable. And I'm not asking for every shot. Maybe one or a few shots could have benefited from puppets and animatronics. And it's you can tell at some points it's the CG to CG. And I get the push in technology, and it was necessary, but it just feels like it lacks the Jurassic vibe without more animatronics. And I have a theory of why. I think it's because they learned from the third film, because that third film, halfway through shooting, they threw the script out. It became a convoluted production. They had to work with what they had, and they had built millions of dollars of animatronics in part three, namely with the Raptors and the Spinosaurus. My guess is when it came to the fourth film, they did not want to take that risk in overspending on animatronics, so they decided, you know what? CG's cheaper. It still looks good. Let's just for this reboot of the franchise, this reset, this test to see if audience can see it. Let's dial back the animatronics. We'll do the next one, but this one, let's keep consistent with the budget. Let's not spend more than what we can. You can't kind of blame them for that, for wanting to not test the waters too far with what they could do with effects. So yeah, the visual effects in this movie, they're hit or miss for me. They're great, but they could have been better.
I will agree that it is a shame that they did not use very much animatronics for this movie. Well, for one thing, maybe that scene with the Apatosaurus was a nice little testing of the waters to see if animatronics could work in a modern day. And I mean, that is a pretty good emotional little scene when Owen and Claire are comforting that Apatosaur before it dies. It was sad, but it was also kind of cute and sweet. But, well, with how big and bombastic and action-packed this movie is, I don't really think there was much need for animatronics, or at least much ways that they could have utilized animatronics. Although, I mean, yeah, it is a bit of a shame that they didn't use more, but at least they didn't incorporate them and then paint over them with CGI like they did with Wolfman 2010, because that would have been disastrous. So, but also, like you said, they do use a lot of CG, but at least it does still look really good. So I don't have much. I think the mindset of people saying animatronics are crap, CG is the better effect, I think that mindset is very outdated nowadays. I think that movies have come out that have proven you can do both. You can have both effects in the same film, and they can be used to complement each other. Say, like, for quick example, say what you want about Power Rangers 2017. At least there are practical versions of the Power Rangers suits. They're just given CG enhancements. Just say what you want. I still think they look good. And yeah, there have been films that have showcased both CG and animatronic practical special effects can be used together, and both still look really good. Fans of practicals can appreciate the practicals. Fans of digital effects can appreciate the digitals. You please both crowds. And yes, like you said, the next two movies incorporate more practicals complementing the digital effects. So that's good too. It's a good evolution of special effects on screen. Go ahead.
Con number two is some of the characters are a little generic, are a little like average, typical, and a little forgettable. I agree with you to some degree with Claire. What I find strange is that she starts as sort of the Hammond type with the outfit, but when she does that moment where she like tucks her shirt in, all this it's like looking at a transformer that goes from John Hammond to Ellie Sattler. And I'm like, what? What? It's weird. How like she's wearing white, which is Hammond, but then she takes the shirt and it's the purple. Now she's Ellie Sattler. I'm like, what the fuck? It makes no sense.
Real quick, too, about Claire. She has terrible chemistry with Zach and Gray. I get that they might have been trying to showcase that she's not good with kids, kind of like Sam Neill's character from the original. But it's just kind of forced and stupid, in my opinion. And, like, this is just me honestly thinking Zach and Gray just should not have been in the movie.
I mean, actually, yeah. So, like, again, the characters are generic and cliche. That actually brings up my next con, which is the script and story, while simple and easy to follow and a way to bring people back, paper thin. Very paper thin and very, very cliche. I find, yes, the kids are your typical Jurassic Spielberg kids. I think the family shit and learning the same lessons, Claire being the workaholic who has to learn to be a family person, lame. We've done this before many a times. I am not a fan of the push of the idea of dinosaurs being turned into weapons. Because Vincent D'Onofrio's character, I say this many a times, this poor kid growing up didn't have the Jurassic Park toys. He had Dino Riders. He was a Dino Riders fan. He wanted the everybody riding a T-Rex, yeehaw, into battle, which I'm like, I'm sorry, if I want that, I'll go watch that sequel to that movie with the Nazis on the moon. Now they're on the core of the center of the earth, and we have Hitler riding a T-Rex. If I want to see that kind of shit, I'll go watch that. I'm not watching it I don't want to see people riding dinosaurs like horses into battle in a Jurassic Park movie. As much as they push it, it's stupid. And yeah, like the paper thin plot, it is at times beat for beat the first one. And it does leave a little bit like, okay, well, we've seen this song and dance before. Next one better do something different. And guess what? They don't really do too much different. So it is paper thin in terms of just plot and characters being very generic. Like, I agree with Doug Walker about Vincent D'Onofrio, where it's like, I want to weaponize the Raptors because I'm the obvious bad guy. I am John Malkoviching my performance. I adjust my belt accordingly. Why does he? No one made him so generic when he's watching them with the Raptors, and he's like, man, imagine these guys in Bora Bora. He has to pick up the soda drink and slurp it with the sound. Like, okay, now you're just like generically bad guy. I'm gonna sip my drink and watch.
Chewing scenery.
What I love is, okay, millions of people are dying, and he has that look of, oh, it's glorious. My dick is so hard for carnage. You're not. Listen, I'm sorry. You're the villain of the movie, not the audience craving death and destruction. I'm sorry. So that's one of my biggest cons. Thin plot, over cliched to some degree.
I'm actually going to stop you right there and say my sole con, and again, it's not a huge one, and well, I mean, Camp Cretaceous kind of does some of that stuff from what I've heard, but this doesn't really come up for the rest of the series as far as the movies are concerned. But yeah, the Raptors as a weapon plot point is completely uninteresting to me. I don't give a fuck. Like, how many times have me and Jackie Boy said this? Why do people think capturing giant monsters will always make them money? It always blows up in their face. Trying to use dinosaurs as weapons is forced, uninteresting, pointless, and stupid. It also kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, all of a sudden, here comes this mercenary dude who wants to take dinosaurs and turn them into weapons. His plan fails before it really gets started. They unleash the raptors, they meet the Indominus, and then the raptors turn on their captors and tear apart everybody that they see, which is a fun action scene, sure. But then, and Vincent D'Onofrio is a good actor, and he does a good job with the character, but he's just such a generic bad guy. Like, yeah, slurping on the soda, chewing scenery, being an over-the-top, money-hungry, carnage-hungry, just generic bad guy. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. And it doesn't like taint the movie overall, but every time I get to that, and every time he's on screen, I'm just like, go away. I don't give a fuck. Just stop.
It's funny you bring that up. I think one of the weakest scenes and one of the most generic moments is when they're in the lab and he's there with the heroes and he's doing the big villain explanation moment where he's revealing his evil plan. And the whole time, I didn't give a fuck what he said. All I wanted to do was this. Press A to skip cutscene. It's like,
yeah.
Like in Stick of Truth, when the bad guys are explaining the plot and Cartman just turns to the camera and says, can we skip this? Like, somebody press the A button? Like, cutscene. Let's move on. I want to play the rest of the fucking game.
Yeah,
like
I have to agree.
That's how it felt. Press A to skip. Press A to bring Raptor to bite arm off bad guy.
Now, granted, it does lead to a really good kill when Vincent D'Onofrio gets eaten by Delta, so that's good at least. But yeah, the whole weaponizing dinosaurs plot point, it's just dumb, stupid, forced, and pointless. And I absolutely hate it.
What's that line that Tuco says in Good, the Bad, the Ugly? When you have to shoot, don't talk.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Pro number... Okay, this is probably one of the biggest pros I have. This is actually biggest con I have. With the plot being so thin and generic, there are not just little to no, like, exploring more of this island, but there's a lot of plot holes setting up this movie, which have never been explored. First and foremost, how the fuck okay, how long did it take to build the park? When the fuck did they liberate it from because remember, we're going back to the park from the first movie. We have not explored this in 2 and 3. We haven't seen this park in 20 years. They do kind of say in the deeper, like, lores and stuff in some of the marketing that, they cleaned up the island in 2002, a year after the events of the third film, and then it took, like, a couple of years to build, because the park here's what's weird, and we forget about this, the parks, by Jurassic World, the park's been in operation for 10 years. It reopened as Jurassic World in 2005. By 2015, that's why they make the Indominus, because people were bored of dinosaurs. They've been coming to this place for 10 years without incident. But, like, first of all, when did they liberate the island? When did they start building the park? Like, there are things that need to be explained that the movie never talks about. I remember there was a teaser trailer that was made by a fan, I think using Real Engine at the time, and it fooled me to thinking this was the trailer, and it was just the upside-down Jeep. And you hear John Hammond say, creation is an act of sheer will. Next time it will be flawless. And when he says next time it will be flawless, you look overhead over the, like you see behind the trees or past the trees, there's helicopters flying by. And when the helicopters fly by, you just see one of the wild raptors look up. And that was good. That was the teaser. That was a great fan teaser. And that's the kind of stuff I want to see. I want a spin-off movie like Rogue One, the liberation of Isla Nublar. I want to see them begin to build the park. I want to see all that in like a spin-off story. So that's a big plot hole. It's like with the First Order. Where did this empire come from? How did they build the park this fast? Like, what is going on? How do you go from Jurassic Park 3 incident to, 4 years later, park's opened? Like, I think there would be a lot of protests and and shit like that.
Well, Bud, you forget that Jurassic Park 3 takes place on Isla Sorna.
But you think the news of all these incidents would have been like, why? Let's not build a park. You know,
Sure, I guess, but continue.
The biggest flaw for me is that there are things in this movie that were supposedly shot and filmed, but were cut. And one of the plot elements that was going to bait on the nostalgia going to the old visitor center was basically that whole area that the kids go into with the gyrosphere and sneak in was actually called the restricted area or the forbidden zone, where basically all the locations where the first park were built were actually abandoned, and they built the new park behind, like, away from where the original park was built. So the idea of, like, there was this whole restricted zone full of wild dinosaurs that weren't part of the park, namely wild raptors that bred from the big one and the original raptors, and something that was teased in merchandise, that apparently there was going to be a scene where either the kids or Owen or Claire would go into, like, part of the visitor center, and there would have been wild spitters, wild Dilophosaurus out there in the forbidden zone. The reason why they don't go anywhere near that area is because the wild dinosaurs are so dangerous, they couldn't capture them. They just built it around them so that they wouldn't be a problem. I think that would have been interesting if we saw more of the restricted area, more of, like, the remnants of the original park, because there is a lot to explore there that the new movies are like, nah, we're not gonna go there.
Osiris, the stop motion god down here, is saying,
Right guy.
Jurassic World using other media to explain their lore is something that has plagued mainstream franchises today, such as the MonsterVerse and the Disney Star Wars trilogy.
I agree.
I kind of half agree. I don't think the MonsterVerse is really a problem for using other media, because the films by themselves do, like, stand well on their own. The MonsterVerse comics serve as just supplementary material that is kind of optional. Like, sure, there's some elements here or there that are incorporated into the films, but for the most part, you don't require the comics to watch the movies. The Disney Star Wars trilogy, though, is horrendous. The MCU, too, because both the MCU and the Disney Star Wars trilogy, they had supplemental material that kind of was required. Like, if you wanted the answers to these plot holes, they just say, read the books. Or nowadays with the MCU, with their shitty TV shows, now they're just like saying, okay, in order to really get what's happening in the movies, you have to watch the shows. What if I don't give a fuck about the shows? What if I just want to watch the movie? Oh, well, you're going to be lost then. That's lazy writing, guys.
It's last minute, and I'll get to be fair though, the expanded marketing media push for the Jurassic World movies are probably the most effort and consistent compared to other franchises. I discovered a lot of things about the lore through the Dinosaur Protection Act when Fallen Kingdom came out. There was a lot more explained about what happened to the pteranodons in part 3, what happened to the raptors, what happened to what were more reports of the T-Rex incident in San Diego. I will give them credit. They did their homework. They actually did add to it. One thing that shocked me, a lot of people brought this up, was apparently Twister is connected to Jurassic Park. Not just the fact that Michael Crichton wrote the script for Twister, but what's interesting is that according to the Mizrahi group, that there's, like, the website for Jurassic World, the park, is that apparently Mizrahi was to help with environments, to try to maybe potentially control environment conditions at the park. They had looked up studies from a group of weather specialists in Oklahoma back in 1996 that used a weather experiment on tornadoes. So I kind of like that idea that Twister and Jurassic Park share the same universe, especially given the fact that in Twister, one of the tornadoes roars like a dinosaur. It's so. And again, I will never get over my favorite joke when I did Twisters, how they constantly pushed from the producers of Jurassic Park. Like, hey, look, Jurassic Park, but with tornadoes.
All right, back to your cons.
That was really my biggest con, was plot holes and like really lacking. I think the geography of the park is just, there's more to be looked at, more to be desired. And you think, oh, well, in the next one, we'll see more. Lol, no, we're just going to blow it up and we're never going to go back there again. Ah, so much could have been explored.
Hey. Save that for when we do Fallen Kingdom.
Oh, boy. Oh, God. But I'm good. That's really all my cons.
Alrighty, so let's wrap up this review of Jurassic
Did you have
World.
one con, though?
I already talked about it, the weaponized raptors. So, Jackie Boy, final thoughts on Jurassic World?
Final thoughts. It's still good. Have some issues come up in the last 10 years, especially with the other sequels and the way it was made? Yeah, but it doesn't stop my enjoyment of it. I'm still very entertained by it. It's popcorn entertainment. It's very much on par with Part 3. It's something that, it was a good return to the franchise. It was worth the decade and a half wait. And I had a blast with it. My opinions have overall not changed since I did my review 10 years ago. Yeah, there might be some new issues that have come up. But unlike Jurassic Park 3, where my opinion just shifted to where I hate this to I like this, this one's kind of the same. Some minor little bits here and there that I'm like, okay, that could have been handled better. But it's still one of the better entries in the series. It definitely beats the water over 5 and 6, which is a huge thing for me. We're gonna have to see how Dominion or how Rebirth holds up compared to this and the other movies, but overall, this was a nice return to the norm, return to the franchise, birthed the nostalgia boom, and which is a hit or miss. But for me, my original review was a 9 out of 10. I'm still gonna stick by that, maybe an 8.9, but honestly, still a solid movie, a great summer blockbuster, and a good welcome return to Jurassic Park in a way.
Jurassic World is a fucking masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. This is one of my favorite movies of 2015. It's easy in my top 5. Minor spoiler for a Super Cinema Rank episode for 2015. But yeah, Jurassic World absolutely kicks ass. I also kind of kicked myself in the ass twice over. A, for not seeing this in theaters, but also just not watching this movie more than 5 or 6 times, especially in the last 7 years. I haven't touched this movie, and I think that's a real shame. I'm going to have to rectify that for future reference. Jurassic World is one of my favorite films of all time. It's my second favorite of the Jurassic Park franchise. And yeah, I have some mixed elements, and the one con that I have is pretty prominent. But while this is not quite a solid gold 10 out of 10 that the original Jurassic Park is, I'm going to give Jurassic World a standard 10 out of 10. I love it to death. It's a fantastic movie. It's a fantastic return to form. It's just a kick-ass fucking movie, and I absolutely love it. So, with all that being said, damn, that was fun.
I had a good time.
Jackie Boy, you got anything to plug?
Well, currently the reason I have not been doing much content lately, this is the first time I've been on camera on YouTube in probably like 2 weeks. Namely because I'm knee deep in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. We're going along pretty well. I don't want to reveal a release date yet, but we have a release date planned. I'm looking forward to showcasing that. When it comes to Jurassic Park, you guys can definitely check out my reviews. Definitely check out my 2-hour review of Dominion. It is an adventure and a half and is really well done. When it comes to Rebirth, I do have plans. I won't say yet. I'll say this. We have been in talks with a couple of people to help out, namely with potentially vehicles. So there's that. We're hoping to start shooting in May, at the end of May, and like just to get things up and going before the movie comes out, so we're all ready. But yeah, I can't say too much about what we have planned with Rebirth, but with the prequels, you guys can check out my reviews of those coming relatively soon. I'm actually really excited to showcase what I got. I am taking some time off because I'm also updating my PC. I'm actually looking at a really nice curved screen right now. I'll showcase a reveal of my new setup soon, but really is a pleasure to always be on Nick Jackson's channel. Everybody who has come to my channel, please subscribe to this guy. He's fantastic. Definitely need to catch up more, but yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Looking forward to seeing you guys down the road.
Alrighty, well, tune in next time as hopefully me and Jackie Boy will reunite to tackle the much maligned sequel to Jurassic World, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Look forward to that. And post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. And as always, go out and, if you're like the number 2 at a huge theme park attraction for the 8th richest man in the world, can you do us all a favor? Just leave your nephews at home. Nobody gives a fuck. And I will see you guys in the next video. And go check out Jackie Boy's channel.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye for now.